Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. If you're like me and you're a dad and you're always dreaming and imagining, how can I get my kids to really be successful? Well, it turns out our next guest is going to not only tell us how to help youth become successful, but help them thrive. Imagine, she says, every child has a spark to be ignited that helps them thrive. Positive youth development theory, specialist, founder of Youth360 Thrive.org. Shiro, Ivana Zajkovska, right here, right now. Assalamu alaikum, Ivana Zajkovska. Thanks for being on the show today.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
I am humbled to be in the presence of a Shiro. You know, as a dad of 4 daughters, mashallah, I always point them to, you know, successful Shiros that are making the world a better place. Tell me, you know, you're the founder of Youth360, and by the way, also a mom, which is like, yes, you know, takes your Shiro power to an exponential number of infinity. But what was that moment? Can you think back and tell us and share, like, what was happening in the world, in the universe, in your universe, where you're like, no, there's a problem here and I want to solve it, that sort of led to Youth360?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about my background as to what actually made me think about this in the first place is I was studying education in university. And they have all these wonderful theories of what you should teach the kids. And then they place you in the classroom and you're just lost. And I was noticing that there was just the way that we were talking to youth, the way that we were interacting with youth, something just felt off for me. And I felt like there's got to be something else out there. And I went back to school and I studied youth development, and it kind of opened up my mind as to that there is just a different way to work with youth. I wasn't 100% sure what that would look like on the ground, because we know theory is different from practice. And those of us who've been in the field for 20 plus years, we know it's not always the same.
Yeah.
And so then I tried to apply this theory in the real world, and I was finding that there was so much need. No one was talking about this idea of positive youth development. And every time I would try to work with any organization or just even on the ground here with our youth, that there is that shift that was necessary. So that was kind of my aha moment, and guided by our prophetic tradition of when you see a gap,
I don't want you to stop, but you're going to have to tell us what positive youth development theory is, but keep going.
Yes. So, you know, I just saw the need that every time we spoke about youth and what we wanted to promote in our children, we talked about what we want to keep them away from.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so positive youth development to me said, okay, why are we only focusing on what we don't want our kids to do?
Don't do this. No, stop, stay away. Yeah. Turn off the computer, get off electronics. Yeah.
Mom and dad, don't smoke, don't drop out of school. Right. And if you, like me, you grow up in the 80s, 90s, you had a ton of programs that were, don't do this, dare, right? Don't say no to drugs.
Yeah. What happened to that? Different story, but keep going.
Yes. But research showed that within 6 months of youth participating in programs like that, they go back to the behavior or to the culture that raises them.
Oh, no.
So unless you change the culture around them, these success stories that these programs were boasting about, they're very short-lived. So they're necessary. We're not saying that programs like that are completely obsolete, but you need other things happening in the community to change the culture that raises them.
I'm totally mind blown right now. So you can say no all day long, and if that's the only thing that you're doing, they're likely going to stay away or listen for 6 months and potentially return back to the thing that you're telling them to stay away from.
Right. It's possible. And the other thing, if you think about your kids, you're a dad, right? You tell them, don't do this, and they stop doing whatever it is. Does that mean that they're actually doing anything positive? Or are they just kind of suspended in what? They're just there. They're not actually doing anything good either.
Yeah.
So positive youth development said, let's not focus on what we don't want them to do. Let's actually redirect our attention to the positive outcomes we want to see. So if you're thinking about, when you kind of held your newborn in your arms, right? You didn't say, well, I want this kid not to do drugs, right?
Yeah.
You didn't say, I want this kid to, make America number one in financial whatever, right? You think of your child, you think, I want this child to contribute positively to the world.
That's it.
I want them to be happy, to have positive relationships, right?
Yes.
So positive youth development said, okay, let's focus on that.
Yeah.
What do they actually need around them? What do we need to build around them to get there? And then when they're already when you take their face and you turn it towards the positive, they're inevitably going to stay away from the negative because they're so focused on achieving that positive high standard that you've set for them.
You said something so powerful. I almost need to try to get you to say it again. And I'm going to use my word. You said positive youth development theory is redirecting the focus from what you want them to stop doing to what you want them to achieve. Did I get it right?
Absolutely. Yes. It's focusing on, it's engaging youth in their own development. So it's no longer this thing that just happens to youth.
Yeah.
They're part of their own development. You're recognizing their strengths. So you're saying, okay, this is Tayyab and he has ABC strengths, but he's missing DEF of supports that he needs. So let's put that in there. Let's add that developmental block, if you will, so that he can continue. So it's, to me, it feels very prophetic. Also, if you think about it, because when the prophet walked into Medina, walked into Mecca, walked into any space, he didn't just say, scrap this, right? He said, what are the strengths that people already have that we can build upon? And what do I need to provide to actually get them there? So the way that you're interacting with youth is based on their potential and not necessarily the chapter you walk in on. And my favorite phrase here that I use is that they're not problems to be solved.
Yeah.
They're kind of fires to be lit. They're resources to be unleashed.
That is powerful. That's powerful. And then so seeing this sort of opportunity, this solution to a big problem, then how'd you move that forward? And where do you think the community is now? And what does the community need to do to take this, to implement this?
Yes. And I think our communities have the best of intentions. We are concerned, and this is not just the Muslim community. I would say, benefit of the doubt, most parents want what's good for their children.
For sure.
I read this research that said that parents worry about their children on average 37 point some hours in a week. That's a full-time job.
That's a lot of time. That's a whole work week.
Exactly. So we worry about our kids. We want what's good. I think where the disconnect is, we just don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so positive youth development is providing a way, because it's not a structured curriculum. It's more, as you said, it's a theory. It's a way of looking at the world. It's a revolution that we're trying to start, right?
Yes.
It's a new way of engaging with youth and a new, fresh vision for what we think is possible for them. And so it's not a big leap for masjids or for communities to say, hey, we want to do something different.
Okay.
And it requires a little bit of a open mind to say, we're going to try this new thing.
Because it's easy to just say no, stop, and sort of structurally put up barriers to what you think is wrong. And, it's easier to take the phone away than to give the child the skills to use it as a resource.
Right.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's mind shift. It's culture change. And then once you're there, once you say, yeah, I'm in, I'm subscribed, like, what's the next step? If, for anyone who's listening out there now, like even a parent, like I'm a parent and I'm like, okay, how do I implement this? So like, what's the next step for us?
I would say start with what you've already got, kind of assess what are the resources you already have. As a parent, know that it's not all on you. It takes a village to raise a child. So it is important for parents to be active, but it's also important for communities to have a say, for teachers to have a say, schools, masjids, organizations like that. So then, you are looking at what's already available. What you're missing, you're trying to supplement from somewhere else. So if you as a parent have a hard time communicating with youth, find another mentor, adult mentor in their lives that you can bring in. On an organizational level, it's a little bit, again, a mind shift with the focus on, how many events, how many youth showed up, right? That kind of output mentality to bringing it back to youth development. We're in the business of developing our children because we want them to be there to continue to champion our communities way past when we're gone.
Yeah.
So youth are not the future. They're today, because if they're not there today, they're not going to be there tomorrow to sustain our institutions. So focusing on developing these youth, which takes time.
Yeah.
So that's where I said it's a little bit of a mind shift. It doesn't happen over a semester. It doesn't happen over a couple of months. It takes time. And those of us who have children, we know we're raising them for years and years and years, and it continues to happen every single day, wherever youth are.
Amazing. Tell me about Youth360, an organization you founded. What does it do? How is it out there working and helping? And if I'm a masjid or an Islamic school, how does Youth360 help us?
Yeah. So with Youth360, I've done a couple different things, and it's based on the need that I've seen. So there is a little bit of training. There's a training arm. So I do teacher training. I will do facilitator training, counselors, anybody who's the adult or young adult who works in this space and they need a little bit more information about how to work with youth through PYD, Positive Youth Development Lens. I do that training. I also do curriculum building. So if an organization says we want to teach a class, doesn't matter what it is, they want to teach leadership to young girls, they want to teach identity to boys, they want to teach anything, it doesn't really matter, then I can build that curriculum for them with PYD within the curriculum. And then on the third branch is kind of working with the masjids, with the nonprofits, where it's, if they have a youth group already functioning, how do we level it up? How do we upskill their workers? How do we train their youth council? How do we make sure that youth actually are part of the organization and they're not just recipients of services? Because that's really big with positive youth development, youth voice and choice, and making sure that they're part of the discussion from day one rather than just showing up to events. So if it's a youth group that they want to start or revamp, I help with that. Or if they're saying, hey, we just want to create any kind of program within the masjid, we can build that from scratch too. So it's a little bit of all of those things, teaching, training, and then building curriculum.
Amazing. And if I'm a parent right now listening, which I am, what's one thing that I can take away to start with right away if I wanted to start implementing positive youth development theory in my house with my kids?
For me, it's very important for the adults who are working with youth and, us as parents to be introspective and to be honest with ourselves, to really evaluate what we know, what we don't know, what we need more of to learn about. And then going to our children with an open mind to say, tell me more. That's kind of my favorite word. Yeah. Anytime you feel stuck or you don't know where to start, you say, hey, how are you? And most kids will say good. Or, like one of those one word answers. How did it go? Fine. Right? Anything happen? No. Tell me more.
Tell me more. Okay.
You need to listen because they want to open up to us. They want to tell us. Every time we interject and we try to teach or preach, we're not listening. And so I would say start with the listening mentality so that you can get to know what's really there and what's missing.
Yeah. So Ivana, thank you so much for being on the show today. Powerful stuff. Positive youth development theory. Every child has a fire inside that needs to be kindled and fueled to help them thrive. And and let's get out there and shift our mindset from no and stop and don't do this to how can we redirect to what we want to achieve And,
Right.
and yeah, when that baby was born, I wasn't saying I'm going to protect this child from, smoking and drinking and all those bad things. I was saying, I want this child, inshallah, to be a leader that changes society, to become a better place, that makes the world a better place in their entire lifetime. Ivana, thank you.
One thing that you said, their fires to be lit, and for some of them, it's just a spark. And for some of them, they may not even know it's there.
MashaAllah.
So your job as a parent, as a youth leader, as an adult in the community is to help them identify that spark, because it was older research, but it said almost half of our youth cannot even identify one strength that they have.
Oh, man.
And we all have strengths.
Yeah.
So when you start listening, you're able to say what I'm hearing you say, as you like to do, is that you helped with this situation. You helped your brother. That is so kind and caring. You're a caring person. So you're identifying strengths for them. And that's the spark. They start thinking about themselves in a positive way too.
Amazing. I'm going to go home and I'm going to implement this right away. And everyone who's listening today, let's all go and implement. This is practical guide. This is practical advice. And if you are listening today and you want to know more, Youth360, what's your website, Ivana?
Youth360Thrive.org.
Youth360 Thrive. I love that word, thrive. Oh my God. Thrive, right? And we always say success, but what does success really mean and look like? But thrive is so much more empowering as a word. Youth360Thrive.org. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for being on the show today. We've got to get you back out. And I'd love to do some more work with you, bring you out to some of the masjids we're working with in Islamic schools and also some of the parent workshops. Thank you so much for being here today. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.